In the time when the spider still spoke to the sky, Ananse the trickster had 3 sons. They were good boys, but they were distinctive. There was Tikullenkelen, whose head was so big he knew tomorrow's weather today, but could never find a hat to fit. There was Afudohwedohwe, whose belly was so vast it arrived 5 minutes before the rest of him, and Nankonhwea, whose legs were thin and as dried reeds. He had to carry stones in his pockets just to stay on the ground. One afternoon, the boys were sitting under the tree. Tikullenkelen sighed, rubbing his neck. He said, "Another day, another neck ache. Why did Father Nancy give us such strange bodies?" Afudohwedohwe also said, trying to squeeze through the trees and failing, "I just want to walk through a doorway without greasing my sides with palm oil first." Nankonhwea also said, "And I just want to stand still without worrying a sneezing chicken will knock me over. If only we were handsome." A mischievous forest spirit heard their complaints. It whispered to them out of the pool of reflection, hidden where the sun rarely touches the earth. It said, "One dip could wash all away your flaws." The 3 brothers stood at the edge of the glowing water. They looked nervous, then determined. They jumped in with a giant splash. Suddenly, smoke began to rise up from the water, and as the smoke cleared, 3 identical, incredibly handsome, muscular African men with chiseled jawlines emerged from the water. They were wearing shiny gold kente cloth. Tikullenkelen touched his normal size head, and he said, "Brother, my head, it floats. I feel so light." Afudohwedohwe also said, "Look at this. I could grate cassava on my 6 packs." Nankonhwea also said, "I feel powerful. Let us go to the village and show them the new sons of Ananse." Together, they strut into the village market in slow motion. Women dropped their baskets of tomatoes. Men stared with jealousy, and the brothers soaked up all the attention, high-fiving each other. When they got to the village market, the king, who was usually the most admired man, saw his wives giggling at the new strangers. He stood up in anger and said, "Who are these peacocks stealing my sunlight? They walk as if they own the earth. Guards, bring them to me. Nobody is handsomer than the king." The 3 handsome brothers were brought before the king, and a large crowd gathered. The king told them that, "You strangers disrupt the peace with your excessive beauty. In this kingdom, perfection must be proven. You must complete 3 tasks by sunset, or you will lose those pretty heads." Tikullenkelen, feeling very arrogant, replied the king, "Give us any task. Look at us, we are perfect specimen." The king then said, "The first task is to cross the river of ghosts using only a spider web as your bridge, and they shouldn't break it." Nankonhwea stood up. "Easy, I used to be as light as a feather," he said. Then he stepped onto the web. His new heavy muscles were too much, and snap, it broke. He fell into the mud. Nankonhwea shouted, "My cows, they are too heavy." The king shouted again, "Tax 2, you are supposed to drink the king's feast soup, the entire pot in one breath." Afudohwedohwe stood up. He said, I can drink everything in one breath." Immediately he took 2 gulps. He started panting, holding his flat six-pack stomach. He said, I cannot. My stomach is too tight. There is no room for the soup. For the final task, the king told them to solve the riddle of the ancients. And it read, I have cities but no houses. I have mountains but no trees. I have water but no fish. What am I? Tikullenkelen, sweating nervously, he said, I know this. I used to know everything, but my brain, it feels squeezed in this tiny handsome skull. Is it a goat? The king laughed cruelly, and he said, Fools, they are just pretty decoration. Guards, take them to the execution post. The brothers were put in a bamboo cage waiting for sunset. Ananse, their father, heard their issue and he sneaked into the cage. He shook his head and held a calabash of water. Ananse told them that they traded their gifts for gold paint. A spider web needs a stick, not a stone. A feast needs a carving, not a pouch. And a riddle needs a warehouse of a mind, not a small hut. Ananse then splashed them with water from the magic pool through the bars, and poof, they instantly reverted to their original selves in a cloud of smoke and broke out of the cage easily. Just before the sun set, the king saw three monsters returning to the trial grounds. Nankonhwea stepped lightly onto the spider web. His legs did not even bend. He crossed easily. Afudohwedohwe lifted the boiling pot of soup and he said, Ah, a light snack. Tikullenkelen barely glanced at the riddle. He lifted his giant head and he said, Cities without houses, mountains without trees. It is a map, O king, a simple map. The villagers cheered wildly. The king was humiliated and sneaked away. The three brothers stood together, ugly and triumphant.